Now, I will say like a common thing that I hear is out there, just, when I'm talking to people at my church or just out in society, most people think that PMS is normal. Like that's just,
Right.
as you're going into your cycle, you're just going to have a crazy things like that. And is that really true?
No, is it normal to have, to feel a little something, as you start your period,
like
or
some bloating
right.
or some
That's
cramping.
a little bit
that's
normal.
the
Right.
body doing its job, but
We should not be having severe pain, right?
No.
Premenstrual disorder. No.
severe headaches,
Right. Exactly.
severe mood swings.
Mhm.
That's all due to hormones being imbalanced. So like, let's just take estrogen dominance, for example. So if our estrogen is rising at different times in our cycle, and our levels, let's just say that they're quote unquote normal, right? Then you will have like a more mild situation as far as what you're feeling. But if you have estrogen dominance, you're going to get like, and that, David, you and I both talk about histamine issues a lot, that's going to drive histamine, which is going to give you migraines and all those things during your cycle, whereas you don't have to have that. And then even with estrogen dominance, endometriosis, like things like that. So you get a lot more pain and heavy bleeding and those things with that type of situation. Whereas if you don't have those issues, you shouldn't have those symptoms.
And I will touch, and I will say too, when women are going to doctors and they're getting their estrogen, as we're talking about estrogen looked at, your estrogen doesn't necessarily have to be extremely high or out of range, right? Within labs. You want to look at that and compare to progesterone, right? Your estrogen can be more dominant and compared to that. So when I see that on lab work, I'm thinking, okay, we really need to support not only helping her ovulate, right? Which there's so many things you can do, but also too, you want to make sure that they're breaking down that estrogen properly, metabolizing that through the liver, and making sure we're not dealing with any infections in the gut, because we need to break that down. And how we metabolize that estrogen and a lot of our hormones is through our stool, right? Through our stool, urine, and bile. So you want to make sure that you aren't dealing with any infections with estrogen dominance if you may feel you're dealing with that.
Right, because you can be estrogen dominant without having high estrogen.
Right.
So you can just have a higher estrogen than progesterone, and that is still estrogen dominance, which a lot of other people won't pick that up.
That's true. That's important to know, because estrogen dominance has been kind of a popular buzzword in the natural health world, particularly for like the last 10 or 15 years. In fact, I remember when I met my wife, this would have been 2014. She had endometriosis. She was told she'd probably be infertile, and she had like intense pain for like 2 days before she would menstruate, right? Like she'd have to like live in a bath, call into work, live in a hot bath for like 2 days. And she just thought that's normal, right? Take a whole bunch of ibuprofen and, you just deal with it for a day or two, and then you move on. And she was told that's normal. You're just gonna have to live like that. She even had, a little surgery to kind of scrape out some of the endometrium as well.
Sometimes that's necessary.
In her 20s. And so back then I thought everything like that was estrogen dominance. Ran some labs on her and estrogen was normal, right? But her progesterone was too low. Like it was very low. Right as, right in that last week before menstruation, when it should be high, right? During that period of time. And and found out, obviously she was stressed out and wasn't taking good care of her body. And so we got those things balanced. And now it's like she barely even knows when she's having a cycle. And of course, she was told she was going to be infertile, which
oh my goodness, you have 4 babies.
We never intentionally tried to have a child. I know a lot of people, they do struggle with infertility. We never like said, okay, we're going to really plan out and have a baby. And we had 4 babies. And so, And so, these things, a lot of these things are lifestyle related. And if you get the right functional testing, you get on the right plan, you can balance these hormones out and really have optimal health. Now, as she goes through, I mean, pretty much every day, she feels really, really good. That last week before her cycle, sometimes she'll notice more brain fog. And I'm in my head that says, okay, she's probably not getting enough progesterone. She might have like a little bit of anxiety or irritability. And we know that progesterone helps boost GABA. So that helps kind of balance and calm the brain. So it's like, we can kind of see the early symptoms, and that's where you want to be as a person out there. You want to like, once you start recognizing some of these early symptoms, you're like, okay, things are a little bit out of balance. Maybe I need a little more sleep, maybe I need to take more B vitamins, whatever it is. And that's really, I know, your book really helps people master their health and kind of start to see these patterns.
Yeah. My mom had endometriosis and she had to have a hysterectomy. And I had all the signs of endometriosis. And I was told I would never have kids and all that stuff. I had 3 kids on birth control, like 3 different birth control. But I was
fertile Myrtle, David.
I was fertile, but I was really taking care of myself too. I mean, and my point of saying that is, don't let someone tell you that and that be the end all be all, because I was told that, thought I would never have kids. And look, I was like, wow, boy, am I fertile.
I did it. Yes.
That's right. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about some of the common drivers of hormone dysfunction.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about the gut. So we all talk about the gut in the functional medicine world. And it's really important how much the gut plays a role in our hormone levels, because like Krystal said, this is where our hormones are really ultimately metabolized. So we want to kind of break everything down in the liver, and then we want it to go through our digestive tract and we want to poop it out, right? The excess, the stuff that we don't really need, that extra. But if you have infections in the gut, so let's say you have a bacteria overgrowth, a yeast overgrowth, leaky gut, parasites, your gut is not going to do what it's supposed to do. And then that's going to cause an issue with the way even that your liver functions. And then ultimately the way that we metabolize hormones. So the gut is a really big place to start to look if you think you have any of these issues. And then we look at like our different glands that, secrete hormones, like our adrenal glands and our thyroid gland. So cortisol, which is our stress hormone, it actually increases our thyroid stimulating hormones. So when cortisol is high, it signals our thyroid gland to stop producing as much thyroid hormones. So you're going to see more susceptibility to hypothyroidism in this situation. So we want to work with the adrenals, and we want to work on the stress component, which we talk a lot about all the time, and the thyroid, which I've written a whole book on, just the thyroid gland, because it's just so important. And this all kind of just still ties together. And then you can have different genetic mutations. There's a mutation that we don't really metabolize estrogen properly with the COMT gene mutation and some other gene mutations. And then, thinking about like environmental factors, if you think about what are we exposed to? What are we putting on our body? What kind of makeup are we using? What are we using to brush our teeth? What are we using to wash our hair and clean our house? All of these products, unfortunately, they have so many chemicals.
Endocrine disruptors.
Yes. And those chemicals, and you hear this word endocrine disruptor. So they're actually at like a chemical estrogen, basically. And then, so that causes a whole slew of issues. And this is where a lot of estrogen dominance is coming from also. And it can be in the water we're drinking, especially out of plastic bottles. And, we see people heating food up in plastic, and I'm like, stop, air freshener, things that you have in your car. Yeah. Your perfume, which, we want to, if there's one thing one piece of advice I could give people, would be stop wearing perfume. And people don't want to hear that. And it's not intentionally trying to make people feel bad. We're really trying to help you, because it is affecting you. It's affecting the people around you, your kids. It's almost like the new secondhand smoke, right? So that is, a huge role. And like, being exposed to mold and all the different things that we're exposed to. And then our mitochondria, our mitochondria is really important in all this. It's a part of the cell that produces energy, but more than that, it helps to release and produce hormones. So this really is a regulator of the thyroid hormone, and it regulates our insulin, which is also a hormone. So it's really important. And, there's different things we need to prioritize to help all these things. We need help with, prioritizing sleep. People hate when you say that, because it's like, don't you think I want to sleep? But there are things you can do, right? You can have like a routine where you stop watching TV maybe an hour or two before bed, and you just get things like more calm. You calm things down, take an Epsom salt bath or something before bed, read a book, put on some lavender essential oils, just like calm down your brain.
Have a good sleep schedule.
Put on it. Make sure you're in bed by a certain time. Wear a sleep mask. Use a sound machine. Make sure it's cold in the room. Things like that. And then, of course, managing stress, which, you know, stress is a problem and everything. But
it's just to help. You need to help your body adapt better to stress, right? We can't get away from these stressors, but if we can put these proper tools in place, and there's so many things you can do, but even something as simple as saying no, not putting so many things on your plate, which is easier said than done, right? Especially us all with work and all the things, right? Take on a lot, right? But saying no sometimes is something as simple as that can really be beneficial. And then trauma. You know, trauma is a big, big thing that we see in practice, especially with our mast cell patients and histamine patients. You know, a lot of patients will come to us and they're not even able to, you know, take a supplement, and they're only eating certain, like 1 or 2 foods. So we have to do everything we can to calm the nervous system. And when we see that, a lot of the times it's working on that trauma work, or even the limbic system, right?
And the vagal nerve and all that, just trying to set up that rest and digest rather than, you know, a lot of us walk around in fight or flight, which is our sympathetic nervous system, all the time. So we work with a lot of people on that. And we talk a lot about that in this book because these are all things you can do at home. You don't have to see a practitioner necessarily to do that. So these are things that can really help you to feel calm. And then you're not releasing as much cortisol, and that's reducing weight gain and reducing sleeplessness and all these different things that people have. So those are the main,
those are the big hitters we see. Yeah.